you.
Say it.
I trust
In you.
in you.
Say it, y'all.
Oh Lord, Jehovah, you.
I trust. Say it.
I
Tell
trust
me how to do it, y'all.
in you.
I believe. Say it. Say it.
I believe you.
I trust.
I trust
Come on.
in you.
Oh, Lord.
Oh Lord, Jehovah, you.
Where y'all at? Come on. Come on.
I trust in you.
I believe. Say it.
I believe
You are the God of miracles.
you are the God of miracles.
You are the God of wonder.
You are the God of wonder.
You are the God of
You
power.
are the God of power.
I believe. Say it.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
Say it, y'all.
I believe. I believe. I
Come on. Let your feet get heavy.
Are we ready? Are we in the village? Is the village ready? Good evening to my villagers. This is John Sampson, one of the co-hosts. Mr. Daly is running just a tad bit late. We're waiting for Dr. Bryant to come on, and she's tending to her responsibilities as an educator. But most of all, you got me for a few minutes this evening, and I just want to say welcome to the village. I got my good producer here, Andre, and I know Sophia is also around. And what we're going to do tonight is just bring you some of the hot topic issues before we get into one of the issues that we're going to talk tonight about is the sickle cell. And that's something that is very important, especially to our communities. But I just want to let you know the village is a community about community empowerment and development. We're dedicated to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life, helping each one of us realizing our dreams at any age, any point, starting from today. Success is not just spoken, it is done. And when I say it is done through our actions to making sure that we are a success. And the only success we can achieve is by working together and understanding that we are one. We are one union. We are one people. We are one culture. Although we have many different cultures, but under God's eyes, we are one people. And despite our differences, we have a lot more similarities. So I just want to welcome you to the village, to my villagers, to tonight's show. We're going to hit a couple of issues. Later on tonight, we're going to have a young lady come on and talk to us about sickle cell. But right now, I just want to talk to you about some of the hot topic issues that are here, that are coming. And one of the issues that are really impacting everyone is whether or not there's going to be another shutdown. And what I mean by that now, if you have been watching the news and listening, you have seen that this Delta variant has been dominating throughout the states, and the numbers are increasing. There was a 400% at one point in time, and right now the president is making the determination whether he is going to require all of us to wear masks, especially when we're indoors. We know that the governor has indicated that even those who are vaccinated and are indoors must wear masks. Even the mayor has indicated that those employees who come back, either they're going to come back and vaccinated, and if you're not vaccinated, you're going to be subjected to rigorous testing every single week to ensure that you are negative with respect to this
rigorous
virus.
though.
You know, in regards to, you got Andre, you're going to jump in regards to, the big thing, Andre, is, school is right around the corner.
Yeah,
School
man.
is starting for some people. You know what? Colleges are next month. the public school starts opening, we've been away over a year. Our students have not been in their classroom, they've been remote. And right now we have the Honorable Mr. Daly, who has just come through the door. I'm gonna pass the mic, like you say, mic 1, mic 2. I'm gonna pass the mic to him. But before I pass the mic to, let me get my little rhymes off first. Before I pass, I'm gonna pass the mic to you.
No, don't pass the mic. Just switch.
We're gonna switch it right now. But Mr. Daly is in the house. But Roderick, come on this, because this is very important. We're talking about this variant that has come alive and really has impacted the way things may be run in the next couple of weeks. School is about ready to get open. Public schools in New York City is about ready to open up. City and state employees are going back to work. So, are we going to shut the city down again, or are we going to mandate those who are unvaccinated? And a shout out to Dr. Brian, one of our good friends, one of our co-hosts on the show. And Doc, I can't wait till you come on. I just want to talk about also, what are your thoughts on something like this? Well, should we be going back to school? Mr. Daly, what do you think? Since you just came in late to the village, we're going to excuse your absence at this point in time.
Well, two things happened.
Here we go, excuses. First
of all, everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us on the village. Where we meet each and every Thursday, dedicated to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life through education.
We already did that, man.
Right? Just let you know.
We did that already, brother. We did that already, man.
I got you. But, when I get on, I have to make sure I say that, meet us all over the world, everywhere you are. So thank you, giving God, the honor,
and the glory.
And the glory and the praises for that. And saying what's up to everyone out there on Facebook, wherever you're joining us, we do appreciate it. So I want to go back. I read a couple of essays. So I had the privilege of the local community board, education committee in the 6-7 precinct, local precinct, as well, reached out and asked me to review some essays, right? And the effect of virtual learning. Right, and what the students were saying about virtual learning. Every child. So I read 3 essays. In all three essays, the students wanted to go back to the classroom to learn. They felt like the system failed them by putting them in virtual classroom. Right, so the system failed them when they when they were home all day, getting homeschooled, doing all of these different things, right? So they wanted to be back in the classroom. So for the most part, it's the teachers and the unions who don't want the schools open. They all under the guise.
Come on now, come on! Don't get on my unions. What's wrong with my unions?
I'm gonna say
we got to keep. We have to keep our educators protected. Come on!
I'm not done yet.
All right,
I'm waiting. Because I believe that the union wants, the UFT, especially in the CSA, wants what students need, right? So I believe that strongly. So, but what I'm saying is that there's an overzealousness within both parties to keep the school open, because students want to be in school. Now, you asked another question about vaccination. I am 100% for all people, all staff to get vaccinated. I am 100% for that. It is proven scientifically that though you might catch the virus even after taking a vaccine, that there is a higher probability, right? Not an impossibility, but a higher probability that you'll survive the COVID, no matter which strand that you get, if you were to take the vaccine.
Let me jump in on that. Today, I was reading an article about a young lady, 33 years old, who took the vaccine,
Mhm.
who was vaccinated. She then got COVID, and she passed away.
Right.
So you have cases in which people have
The
been
data,
vaccinated,
Mhm.
subsequently got the COVID virus, and unfortunately passed away.
Yes.
So, I mean, so what
So-
are you saying then?
But I am saying that numbers support getting the vaccine. There is no.
But if I get the vaccine, I'm gonna die.
No,
I mean,
but that's what people say a lot of times out of ignorance, right? Because
what are you calling me ignorant now because
no,
I won't get vaccinated?
no, I'm saying
Because I'm concerned about my well-being and
no,
my health?
Absolutely not. What I am saying is that people use. I had this conversation I maybe about 2 weeks ago, and the conversation says people look at data and information. At times, data is finite, right? Data is, you can't change a fact. A fact is a fact.
Right.
However, people use the facts for whatever relevant information they want that they feel is relevant. So, for example,
But the facts are the
hold
facts.
on,
But if
hold
the
on.
facts,
Let me finish the thought though.
Confirmation bias.
So, you have, unfortunately, God rest this 33-year-old soul, right? That this person died after doing everything that she needed to do, take the vaccine, do whatever needed to happen.
Yes.
Unfortunately, she died,
Yes.
right? So people now who want to say that's why you shouldn't take the vaccine will pull out this one thing, right? They'll pull out.
But
Wait, hold on,
one thing
hold
is
on.
one thing, man.
But the fact that there are hundreds of people who are unvaccinated, hundreds and thousands of people who are unvaccinated who are dying. That's not important, right? It's what's important is the smaller number of individuals who have taken the vaccine who might have had medical mishaps. And so if your belief system is I don't want to take the vaccine, that number will outweigh the larger number of people who have died, who have spread it. Right.
So listen.
And again, we're not here to minimize death. That's not what we're doing.
What he's trying to say is he trying to say our mind playing tricks on us?
No, it's
what are you
people,
trying to say?
People want to believe what they want to believe.
Confirmation bias.
But how come
Right.
if it's confirmation bias, but if the truth facts is the facts?
But it's not it's how you look at it. Okay. Let's move the conversation to education for a little bit.
Why you got to move it to
No,
something?
hold on.
No.
I'm gonna move it away from this to bring it back to this.
All right.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about a particular college.
Right.
And I was talking about literally the nursing program at this college.
All right.
The person, oh, this is a great school, this is blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, how do you consider this school to be a very good school if 84%, which is a real number, of the students who are in the medical program don't pass the nursing test?
So that's not a good program.
Right. But then for her argument, we have nurses who are working at my institution who graduated from this school. So what are you saying about the school? But again, it's only 16% of the persons who of course, if there's 16%, you graduated 500 people, 16% is what? What is that, 50, 60?
But you're going to be able to manipulate the numbers to
And that's
support
the
your
point.
claim.
And that's exactly what I'm
If
saying.
you're going to say that, then say that.
That's what we're trying to
You're
say.
beating around the bush and tell us about this one case, two case, three case.
Yeah, but that's the
In one
point,
case,
right?
there's
So,
one case too many.
okay, so in your experience,
Mhm.
right? In
Which
your
is not
experience,
much, but
right? In your experience, since February 2020,
Mhm.
forget February 2020. In your experience,
Mhm.
since December 2020
Right.
till July 2020, do you personally know more people who died from COVID or from the vaccine?
So I'm going from December 2020 to July 2020.
Now, let's not
That's what I'm
talk.
saying.
That's what I'm saying. You're telling me going back?
I mean,
come on.
I meant July 24th. I meant
coming late.
You
And
know,
he giving us
you know what I
bad
meant. I
facts.
meant 2021.
And he giving us bad facts.
I meant 2021 from from 12/20 to 7/21.
Yeah.
Do you know more people died from COVID or more people from the vaccine?
More people have died from COVID
Thank you.
than from the vaccine.
There you go.
I did.
All right.
But
Right.
they died from COVID too. And they died from the vaccine.
No, but again, so those people who are listening, the question becomes, who do you know? I mean, most of us, the average generation, the only person that I know, right? The only person, I've only had one person who told me that they knew directly somebody who died from taking the vaccine. I only know one person who told me that.
Well, you know what? I think what it boils down to this. I think for the society at large, we need to get vaccinated. Those who have medical conditions for other reasons can't get the vaccine, I understand, but it's just like insurance.
Yeah.
When you have insurance, you buy insurance not only to protect yourself, but to protect you from others. Because you are not responsible for those others, but those other people do have a responsibility. And if they fail to exercise that, you then have to protect yourself.
And
so what we're saying is, and this whole thing is, you know, what the biggest thing is, everybody talks about mandates. You know, in the States, we used to talk about unfunded mandates. That mandate you do X without providing you the funds. People are concerned about their choice. You know what's very interesting? I was watching Fox, and Fox is saying people should have the choice whether or not they need to take the vaccine, get vaccinated or not get vaccinated. And my question to those commentators on Fox and those conservatives is, so why shouldn't women have the choice to choose between whether you want to keep your child or you want to have it?
Also, you're determining what choice is.
Exactly. It's convenient to exercise your choice when it comes to when it's convenient and it comes to a mandate by government. But what you want government to do, all those conservatives who believe in abortion, you want government to mandate those individuals to, when they are pregnant, to have their child and not given the choice to decide to go to decide to make a decision as to
whatever the reasons are.
Whatever the reasons are.
Right.
The point comes down to a choice, and you can't have it no way. You can't have it both ways. So when we're talking about the vaccine, we talk about vaccination. It is the height of hypocrisy that you see these Republicans who talk about choice. Why can't I have choice when choosing or not whether I want to be vaccinated? As to why can't I have a choice whether or not, you know, I need to come to full term with my pregnancy? It's about choice. It's not about.
No, you don't have the right to say that you're pro-choice, but you have the right
to say I'm pro-vax.
I'm anti-vaccine.
I'm anti-vaccine. So it doesn't. It doesn't. That's why people follow. Excuse the expression. You know, that's why politics is so full of bull.
Yeah.
You know, it's unfortunate. You know, I see it. It's true. It's just full of crap. You know, just be true to the people. Tell them what it is. Straight talk leads to straight understanding. Don't bull crap me.
Did you hear the I was watching a newscast. I went to the doctor this morning, right? Mm-hmm. And the McCarthy was having a press conference, and Nicole Malliotakis is talking, and all these other Republicans are talking, mm-hmm. and they're talking about how Biden is responsible for a lot of what's going on with the COVID. I was like, are you guys drunk? You know, they were talking about the insurrection, they were talking about COVID and the vaccine and all the stupidness that was going on. And it's like Trump did no wrong, Doug. No wrong.
But we you know what? But that's the reality.
And then they're talking about, and then went on to talk about the voters' right piece.
But not even, brother. Did you even hear some of the testimony regarding the insurrection and some of the police officers? And for these Republicans to just basically ignore and disown what these individuals are saying that happened, it's just amazing the level of hypocrisy here in politics.
And it's like,
why you cut me off, Andre? Why you cut me off, man?
Right? It's like, it's good for the goose, but
Y'all
not
cut
good
me off. I can't hear myself speak.
You can't. You still can't hear?
I can't hear.
All right, let me try again. Try again. You can hear now?
Can't hear. Nope.
No, still can't hear? All right.
Can the audience hear me? Nope.
Yeah, they can.
I can't hear.
I can hear you though, so I know you're talking.
As long as you can hear me.
Right. So it's definitely for me highly problematic. Highly problematic that you're talking about two sides of your faces and all the other crap that's going on, right? Right. All the other things that are going on in society, and to think that you're looking at protecting our people, and then you talk about doing all of these different things that are really not protecting people. I don't get it. I don't get it.
It's
right?
not, sometimes you wonder, is it really about the protection of people? But who knows?
Right.
Who actually knows?
Yeah, I don't. We could stay all day on this topic right here, man. But there are a couple of things going on as well as we move on to.
Who gonna pay my rent? Who gonna pay my rent? Who gonna pay my mortgage?
Yeah.
Who gonna do that? So we know about this whole big thing about all of a sudden, the state government gets an epiphany that they have $2.3 billion, $2.7 billion sitting in a fund.
It's, whatever it is, it's a lot of money.
Sitting in a fund and not being distributed to those landlords and tenants so they can pay the arrearage on their rent and the landlords as to their mortgage. It took a rubbing from Senator Schumer to let them know that either you use this money, Governor Cuomo, or you will lose it by October. So right now, the Office of Temporary Disability is working on these applications in conjunction with the private vendor that the state has hired, so they can process these claims and get this money out the door. So far there's one landlord that received some form of payment, one landlord. But what about the rest of those who have been suffering because of this pandemic? So we really need to get to see what's going on. Right. So we need to light some fire under the office of the governor to, get that money out to those people. Get those money out to those landlords, those tenants who need it. They need a place to live because the federal moratorium for evictions expires on Saturday. New York State expires at the end of August. So let's get on the track here in the state and get that money out to those who are being impacted. What do you think about that?
I think
you get your money yet?
Man,
your tenant pay your money?
Tenant pay what?
See, tenant ain't pay no rent. My tenant ain't pay no rent either. I ain't get nothing yet, but hopefully I get something soon.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you really think about it. That a lot of times these tenants there's no help on the mortgage. I thought 3 months, 3 months on the back end of your mortgage. I allow you not to pay your mortgage for 3 months. Can offset the 12 months the tenants don't pay their rent.
But hopefully, the landlord's going to get some money. $2.7 billion. That's a lot of dough. Yeah, that's a lot of dough. And then what? The other issues too when they get the money. What's going to happen. Right? What's going to happen? Oh, I have this to pay, that to pay, that to pay. No. I think those payments will be going directly to the institutions.
I don't know.
I hope so.
I don't know. I hope so.
I believe so. I think they'll be going directly to the institutions or those landlords. They're going to get their money. They're going to do what they have to do.
Right.
Because there's a lot of requirements that have to be met, and you want to take care of that, or you don't want. Or if you don't, so you don't want to misappropriate that money because they're gonna lock you up.
Right. What is this? So I'm trying to see if there's a link. Is there a link for that? Should be back in office by.
There should be a link, Andre. Do we got a link? What's going on, Andre?
for where people can go.
Or Sophie, our producers, do we have a link so people can go in and do what they need to do? It's coming up. It should have been up already, man.
Yeah,
I don't know why it takes so long. Man. What's going on here? You know, I don't know what's happening, boy.
That's why the executive producer, right?
I was only shake my head.
What else? So yeah, I'm wearing my Jamaica shirt. Hold on, let me say.
Oh Lord, here we go.
But you're just upset because you can't wear that.
Here we go.
Oh, hold on. Let me see. Hold on. There you go. I'm representing Jamaica and United States. You know, track starts.
I'm representing United States in the house.
Right. I'm representing Jamaica and United States right here. Track. I'm upset.
You're immigrant.
Yes,
Deportation.
But is it true that Shakara Richards is going to be able to run in the 4x1?
I don't know.
I heard something like that recently.
I know the young lady won the.
Maybe Donna knows. I'll ask Donna Whyte.
But you know what? Something Roger, what's been becoming very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Simone Biles. Naomi Osaka. You know
the trend.
Yeah. And it is the stress that are put on these athletes to perform at such an optimal level. But people don't realize that the mental stress that goes along with it can really be debilitating.
You know what I was thinking about too, John, on that topic?
Mm-hmm.
I saw this video today. I had 4.2 million views.
Right.
And I always say to my children, I'd rather be behind the camera than in front of the camera.
Amen.
And because sometimes people fail to realize that people are people and they're human beings. Just they put on their pants one leg at a time.
No, not necessarily if you're a mermaid.
Well, you have no legs, right? But when they get out of the water, they get the legs just one leg at a time, right? But and people fail to realize that, so they're add these pressures, like you're saying, on people.
Unnecessary pressure,
right? To do what? Like, you know, you can't even go outside and use. If Naomi Osaka used the bathroom in the public station, all of a sudden it hits the news, right? You and I can just go to the bathroom
because we are such voyeurs. Mm-hmm. We are so nosy. We look at we just want to know. You got the Instagram. We just want to know so much. We want to know about everybody else's life, but we don't want nobody to know about our lives.
Yep. That's and
it's like everybody else. Live through you. I want to live vicariously through you. You need to be happy in the life that you're living, but at the same time, you know, there's a level of privacy that each of these individuals want to have because they want to be normal like everybody else.
Yep.
You look at the stress and the strains. You look at Michael Jackson. You look at the stress and strains that he was put under. You look at Prince. All of these celebrities, you put under such pressure that it's to the point where it can break you if you don't surround yourself with those individuals to help absorb some of the stresses and strains that you face.
And adding more to that, right? Adding more to that is that people, you know, I've seen people swamp celebrities, right? Mm-hmm. They swamp them like flies on manure, right? And they can't even breathe, right? They can't even breathe. Mm-hmm. So but sometimes they like, oh, that's the life you chose. Yes, but at the end of the day, don't hurt me, penalize me for making something of myself. You sometimes just got to give me away. Andre, what time is our first guest expected? Right now? All right. So we'll come back to some of these things.
We got Miss White. Come on. We got Donna. Donna coming through.
Yeah, Donna.
Donna, welcome to the village.
Myself.
Donna.
Hi. Thanks for having me, guys.
How you doing, Donna? How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing tonight?
I would like to say officially I've known Donna since she was a teenager. I would say before she even saying that. Before she even saying that, I knew what she always had the same smile.
Damn, Roger, you're old. You're old.
Absolutely. Haven't heard in the house.
Yeah, all right. Wait. Hold on.
You're old.
If I've known her since she was okay, you're trying to say something. I didn't say she was my student. I said I've known her since she was a teenager. Nothing. Oh, so Donna, you heard that right away?
I heard that, but he needs to understand that you're only a little bit older than me.
But it's not even that. He's trying to say that you look good and I look bad. I heard him.
I didn't hear all of that.
Well, hey, doctor, how you doing?
I'm very good.
I see you're what? You're in the home office or you're working?
I'm in the home office. Yes, this has been my home office, and I'm grateful. No COVID in here.
So Doc, let me throw this at you. So what are your thoughts on this whole new variant that has come up?
Which one, the Delta or the one?
Delta.
Yeah.
And also the vaccinated versus unvaccinated. I know, we're talking about. We have another issue we want to talk about.
Don't go with it's your personal choice. We want to hear your real opinion.
Yeah. Tell us what your thoughts are, Don.
Yeah, I mean, the Delta variant, it was bound to happen. This is just what viruses do. They mutate so they can survive, right? That's just what happens. In terms of vaccinated and unvaccinated, I mean, vaccines are doing what they were meant to do. I'm a pediatrician, right? And so this is what we do all day long. We give vaccines. And look how many diseases have been eradicated due to vaccines. So I don't understand why, people have always been distrustful of vaccines, but now it just continues and it's just making things worse. So in my opinion, everybody needs to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Unfortunately, my daughter, who's under 12 years old, cannot be vaccinated, and I'm looking for clinical trials just to get her vaccinated.
And that's what I'm talking about, Doc. It's all about educating people about the importance of being vaccinated. And you, as a pediatrician, talking about you administered vaccines, all the time, and the impact that they have on the longevity and the well-being of those young adults.
I have a question for you, Dr. Whyte.
Sure.
On the same topic. I'm in a few groups.
You're in a few what?
Groups, like WhatsApp groups, conversational groups. Somebody brought up an interesting point. I want to know how you personally feel about this as a doctor. I go to the doctor if my toe hurts to get their medical advice.
Mm-hmm.
What cream I need. Oh, my child has a runny nose. I'm going to Dr. Whyte, right? Or Dr. Stewart, right? But now the conversation about the vaccine comes up, and all of a sudden, my doctor is not good enough, right, to tell me what I need to do. How does that make you personally feel as a doctor and your work? Or you haven't thought about it, but now you give this a couple seconds to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you see me as your child's doctor, any medical issue, my opinion should count. But I think for me in that situation, the first thing I would do was ask about their concerns about the vaccine, just kind of get it out there as to what their worries are and what their concerns are. And if I can address it, hopefully I can prove to them that I'm the right person to talk to about the vaccine, not just a runny nose or a broken toe.
Right, and to me, I feel like this, somewhat of an insult. It's just to me, it's like I always say, I'm an educator, right? If you have an educational question, ask me.
True.
If you're gonna ask me an educational question, all of a sudden I give you an educational answer, you get mad.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? So I say to my wife all the time, she's an accountant. If I have an accountant question, I'm gonna go to you. I'm gonna give deference to you because, again, at the end of the day, that's your job. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask the mechanic what to do with the car. The doc, I don't know. That's just me. Anyway, you are a pediatrician. You've been doing it for a long time. You could tell us a little bit about that in a minute. But you have a specialty, which is what you want to talk about today. And I could already tell you that you're going to be on that Rolodex of people who are going to be calling in, because I know that a couple of people have asked me about it directly, and I know that everybody might not tune in. But let's give a little background. You and I both went to Harvard College in Hartford, Pennsylvania. Where did you go to medical school after that?
So after that, I went to medical school in Syracuse, New York.
At Syracuse? You went to Syracuse Med?
No,
it's school in Syracuse.
It's the medical school right next to Syracuse University. Upstate.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
What's that called?
Upstate Medical University.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
Did you go to school at the same time with Ingrid? Because she went around that same time.
So when I was interviewing for med school at Rochester, I stayed with her for my interview. So I entered medical school after her.
Okay. Because Ingrid is another classmate of mine that went to school up that way. Anyway. So, and then you became a pediatrician about how long?
So after medical school, you then do training in a specialty. So I did my pediatric training back in New York City in Long Island.
Okay.
That was 3 years. And then after that, I did my subspecialty training in hematology and oncology in Connecticut and Yale.
Okay. So we see we have a, so you had a very diverse training. So that is excellent. So your main thing, well, say for those people, hematology has to do with the blood, oncology has to do with cancer. Is that adult cancer, childhood cancer? Hematology, are all of it within children under 18? Everything that you study?
Right. So with pediatrics, you do pediatrics and then you kind of specialize in something in pediatrics. So after I finished pediatrics, I specialized in pediatric hematology and oncology. And hematology, blood, and oncology, cancer are two sides to the same coin. So we study both at the same time. And it's all in children. I treated kids up to the age of 22.
And then 20-year-old child? Really?
Huh?
I have a 20-year-old. If I tell him he's a child, he looked at me like I'm crazy.
Absolutely. That brain is not even close to fully developed until 25.
Hey, Doc, where's your practice located?
So I was working at Johns Hopkins in the Division of Pediatric Hematology, but I've moved from there to the FDA. So I don't actually see patients anymore yet.
Wait, and the FDA is...
Hold on. Wait. You overstepped something. Wait. What's the name of that college again that you said you worked at? Johns what?
Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, Maryland.
So what I want my audience, right, to understand, that's why I want... Donna is very bashful, and I appreciate that. Like she's been very humble. But if you kind of begin to start hearing what she's saying, right? She studied at Yale. She was at Johns. If those of you who are following medicine, Johns Hopkins University, I think is top 5 in the country or something like that. Or at one point it was like number 1 or something, right? And I don't have to tell anybody about Yale Medical School, right? Everybody should know something about Yale. So I want to make sure that the audience understands, John, that we bring guests on who truly understands what they're doing. Does that make sense? What I'm talking about?
Why would we bring guests on?
No, but I'm just
don't know what they do.
No, but that's a good question. But I want to make sure that people understand that they're qualified. So when we ask them about the vaccine, when we ask them about this, they're not just shooting at the hip. You get what I'm saying? Like some of these WhatsApp group who send out these messages about don't take the vaccine.
This is the village. This is the village. This ain't what's up.
Yeah, so
Donna, you gotta excuse him.
No, Donna, but you hear this all the time, right?
No, absolutely. The things that I hear.
This person's not that. But anyway, so one of the things that and
Donna, I'm from the School of Hard Knocks.
That's good. I like that.
Wait, you're originally from New York, right?
Me? I'm from the Bronx. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Brooklyn.
That's what I'm saying. Brooklyn. You make it sound like she's a stranger. She's originally from Boogie Down.
Brooklyn in the house.
Yeah, she's from the Boogie Down, the Bronx.
Rap originated in Brooklyn. I bet y'all didn't know that. Right?
Oh my! Did you just say that? Yeah. Oh my goodness!
Right?
The Bronx.
Yeah, that's always a fight, right? Every time you hear that.
I'm about to come down to the studio.
So my producer's like, get back.
That's good.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought he was yelling at me again because sometimes we go off tangent.
That's good because it's focused on her.
Right. So
which part of the Bronx? Doc?
I'm from the North Bronx, around Gun Hill Road.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
where did you go to high school?
I thought you were going to say I'm from
Fieldston.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go to high school?
Fieldston.
Where's that? I don't know Fieldston.
No, hold on. Let me tell you about Fieldston. Fieldston is one of the exclusive independent schools in New York State. My daughters went to Packer, and they beat Fieldston in basketball. My daughter JoJo, she beat them.
And by the way, before I forget, Donna, we're not liking John. Guess where his daughter is going?
Bryn Mawr.
No.
Swarthmore.
There you go.
Swarthmore.
Yeah, there you go.
She's going to play basketball at Swarthmore.
We're not liking him right now.
But,
no, clap for that.
but kudos to his daughter. Kudos to his daughter, because that's a very good school, even though it's not Haverford.
There you go. All right. Oh, my producer's getting on his paper and pen. That makes me nervous. So you want to talk about sickle cell anemia, right? And it's an issue internationally, globally is actually the right word. It was interesting. Many years ago, when I was in Spain, I did the study abroad, and not that time. The second time I went with a group of students, we had one kid, God rest his soul. He flew and he wasn't supposed to fly, but we didn't know that he had effects of sickle cell, and they didn't know what that was in Spain primarily because he's black, right? And sickle cell is a disease that's primarily related to blacks. You can elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so for the most part, especially in the US, most of the people who have sickle cell are black. However, it can affect anyone from Southeast Asia to the Mediterranean to France. And people in South America, Brazil, there's a large population of patients with sickle cell. But in the US, the majority of patients are black. I know I walked into a patient room one time and I saw a kid sitting on the bed, white skin, red hair, freckles, and he was Puerto Rican and he had sickle cell disease. So, don't be surprised by what patients look like, but for the most part, the patients are black.
So tell us, how does a person, is it contagious? How does somebody catch it? How do you get sickle cell?
Yeah, so it's not contagious. It's all based on genes. So genetics. Yep. So
if you went to school in New York, you would know.
Hey. I didn't say I didn't know how you get it. I just want to make sure this, because a lot of times when people have illnesses, people are afraid of them because it's contagious. So tell us exactly how a person can develop sickle cell.
So they inherit it from both parents. So they have to get a sickle gene from one parent and a second sickle gene from another parent, and that gives that child the disease. If you only inherit one gene, that just means you have sickle cell trait, so you don't actually have the disease. But it's all passed down from parents, so it's not contagious. So
both parents have to have the trait. If a parent, for those science people, right? It's called a Punnett square, if I remember clearly, with the four angles. So to give you a little science background, let's say sickle cell is SS, large S, small s, right? If both parents have it, if both of them are sickle cell, then it's almost 100. It's 100% that all of the children, if they're both pure sickle cell, right? It's 100% that both parents, all of the children have sickle cell.
Absolutely.
Right? But if both parents are carriers, that's what it's called. If both parents are carriers, it's 1, 2, 1. So, right? If I remember clearly. So 1 meaning 1 will be purely not, that's obviously is a percentage, people, is not guaranteed, but how it should work out. Like 1 is purely no sickle cell trait at all. 1 will have the disease and 2 will be carriers.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Absolutely. Very good.
Haverford taught me something. I remember that in microbiology.
Oh,
right?
brother.
Nice.
Sophomore. So you're saying at some point, at which age or how old would you begin to start seeing some side effects of sickle cell?
So usually babies are quite safe. They usually don't have any issues before 6 months old. And then after that, you can begin to see what we call dactylitis or pain crises in infants. And actually, this is the only time that you can see pain because their hands and feet will have swelling. And then after that, most times people with sickle cell disease begin to have more symptoms.
And so other than swollen hands, is that swollen hands or limbs or body? Just what is it? Hands, feet?
And hands.
Okay. Outside of that, are there any other visible or internal effects that?
Nothing visible. Internally, their organs don't work like other people do. So, for example, the spleen, which is part of your immune system that fights off infections, does not work well. So as soon as a baby, their sickle cell is picked up on a newborn screen in the US, we start them on penicillin. And that way they have a little bit of protection from infection. So even from the time of birth to 6 months, there are no pain crises necessarily, but they are immunocompromised. So if they ever have a fever, they have to be brought into the hospital for IV antibiotics.
So when the child is born, do you check to see if they have sickle cell immediately? Is that one of the things that you do?
Yep, it's on the U.S. Newborn screen. So that's how, because if you catch it at that age, at the newborn period, their life can be changed dramatically. So it is on every U.S. newborn screen. So every baby that's born in the U.S. is screened for sickle cell disease. Now, other countries don't necessarily have that. So when their child gets sick or infected in, say, sub-Saharan Africa, that child could easily pass away from sickle cell disease because the parents and the people taking care of that child just don't know that the child has it.
Welcome, Dr. Bryant. This is our co-hostess with the mostest, who has joined us as usual. She has her $1 million job, so it's a
$2 million job.
$2 million
Not
job.
million, $2 million.
$2 million.
Doc, let me a Doc, let me a 50, please.
Hello, Dr. Bryant.
By the way, you get a lot of shaking the head from Dr. Bryant because we bother her all the time.
No, she's a straight woman. I understand the setup.
Oh. You know what? Oh, look at you. Is that something from
I love her.
Kumbaya.
Right? So is there any physical, like walking? What are some signs as a child gets
What are
older?
symptoms?
What are some signs that this person, is there anything visible? Like I'm walking down the street and say, you know what, that person might have sickle cell. There are things that I would see or no? Are they like a regular person? Talk to me.
In general, looking at a person, you wouldn't necessarily know they have sickle cell disease. The one clue that you might see is that their eyes may be a little bit yellow. So that white part may be a little bit yellow because internally, people with sickle cell, it affects all their organs. So the yellow eyes come from the liver not functioning as well as it should.
Isn't that called being jaundiced?
Being jaundiced, it's scleral icterus, and that's only some patients with sickle cell. So that's the only thing you would actually see. Otherwise, everything is happening internally.
Is there life expectancy rate on somebody with sickle cell?
Yeah, so back in the 1970s, the life expectancy of a person with sickle cell disease was 14.
Wow.
And this is only because people didn't understand it as much as they do now. Now that we've introduced penicillin from the newborn time, now that we have more treatments coming into play for patients, we know how to do transfusions. We've learned how to cure sickle cell disease with bone marrow transplants and other therapies that they're working on. Patients with the most severe type of sickle cell disease, hemoglobin SS, can live into their 60s and even 70s now. So, in the last few decades, we've come a very long way in terms of life expectancy.
I have a question in regards to that. How about diets? Is there certain diets that we should be aware of, and what can we do as parents, as educators, educating the school, educating, daycare center or anywhere the child go? What can we do in regards to diets?
Yeah, so good question. I think, as hematologists, we always concentrate on the medical care and the medicines. But at home, parents do so much for their children to keep their bodies functioning as well as possible. So in terms of diet, the one thing we always say with sickle cell patients, not food, but in terms of liquids, they should always be hydrated. Mm-hmm. That can delay or completely stop sickle cell pain crisis. In terms of diet, I would say you'd have to see what works for your body. You can talk to nutritionists, but it's just about eating well and eating healthy. So lots of fruits and vegetables, not a ton of junk food, not a ton of sugar. And people have, done research, and there are people who talk about diet all the time. And I tell my patients, even though I'm not an expert in terms of foods and diet, research it, see what works for you. See if you take dairy out of your diet, does that help you? If you stop eating red meat, does that help you? I'm not sure. But I always tell patients to look into it, let me know what you're doing, and let me know if it works for you.
Yeah, Doc, I agree with you. It talks about diet, but it's really pretty much a lifestyle that you adhere to. I have a cousin of mine. He has sickle cell, and I know that the crisis that he goes through. Um, and my aunt, may she rest in peace, wanted to send him out to warm weather climate,
Mhm.
in order to be able to extend his life expectancies with respect to sickle cell. And I think our villagers need to understand that this is a genetic disease, but there's things that we can do to provide some sort of maybe comfort
Hmm.
during those or having these episodes, because these episodes, sickle cell crisis, are very fierce at times. So I remember my cousin; he couldn't move. It hurt so much for him to move.
Yeah, so there are absolutely things that you can do in your life that will help in terms of doing better and avoiding crises. So I know some people have to figure out what their crises are. For a lot of people, it's being dehydrated. So we tell these people with sickle cell disease to stay hydrated. So Dr. Brian was asking about what can you do at school. They should be allowed access to water anytime. And then because they're having access to water, the teacher has to allow them to use the bathroom. They should be allowed to keep a sweater at school, for example, because if the air conditioning is too much, they should be able to put on a sweater to keep warm. Being in warm climates is great because the cold can precipitate a pain crisis.
Right.
So there are lots of different things that our patients can do to keep their bodies healthy and hopefully avoid.
Something that they always get on to me on this show, my other co-hosts, particularly one, Dr. Bryant, is when I bring up the issue of marijuana,
Lord.
the impact that it can have on someone who has
Oh,
sickle cell.
did I mention that our co-hostess shakes her head a lot when
Yes.
she disagrees? Did you notice that right away when you said the marijuana thing? Did you notice it? I don't know if you noticed it, right? Wait, I'm not on camera. Hold on. Did you notice that? Yeah. She's in love with marijuana. Just in love with it. Look at this.
I just
Kumbaya, man.
Doc, I
I
think,
have never tried that, and I'm not interested in.
what do you
Unlike
think?
my friend over here, so that's
Both
a
of us, by the way, not just your friend, my friend too. I'm interested
I'm talking
in it
about
too.
you.
Oh, you're talking about me. Oh, okay. Go ahead. So you were saying that.
So
You
at
said
Hopkins, I took care of a lot of adolescents and teenagers and young folk, and it seems like everybody's smoking marijuana.
Smoking ganja,
But
especially in the Bronx, they smoke a lot of it.
But I'm gonna be like Dr. Bryant now. And
Interview is
just sit here
over. I'm
and
gonna
That
put my
wasn't for
joint
me. That wasn't for me. I'm Brooklyn all the way.
Yeah.
Brooklyn all the way.
Yeah,
So I always tell patients with sickle cell, I would avoid smoking marijuana because it affects your lungs. It's still smoke and it can bother your lungs, and the lungs are already damaged from the disease, and so you're just making it worse.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Some patients do find that it helps, but I would not smoke it.
So I want to go back. Exactly what is sickle cell? I forgot. I didn't ask that question. Exactly what is sickle cell? We talk about how you get it, how hereditary, whatever. But what exactly is sickle cell?
It's a shell that is not.
I wasn't asking you that.
I'm sorry.
I was waiting. I was like, let me see what.
I went to Brooklyn College. I didn't go to one of those independent colleges. I went to
What are you trying to make a? You trying to throw a shade at both of
Donna,
us, man?
please, can you actually share with us?
Really don't, Joanne. Leave
Yes,
us alone.
yes.
All right, go ahead. Unfortunately, our producer.
We want to hear the doctor. Thank you
Go
so
ahead
much.
now.
Go ahead.
So essentially, sickle cell disease means that you have a different type of hemoglobin than people who have a regular A hemoglobin. So hemoglobin A is what everyone else has. People with sickle cell disease have hemoglobin S or sickle hemoglobin. Because of that hemoglobin, when that red blood cell, which is usually shaped like a nice flexible bean bag,
A flexible
bean bag.
Beanbag. Okay.
Beanbag.
I thought you said beef patty. I'm about to
I
say.
thought, you know what? I did hear beef patty too, actually.
I said Jamaica.
I heard
said
some
the
beef
Bronx
patty.
coming out.
Yeah.
My family is from Jamaica, so it may have been there.
Beef patty. Okay. Got it.
So when that cell loses oxygen, it becomes very rigid and inflexible and sticky. So when those sickled cells are going through blood vessels, they stick to everything and they just kind of cause blockage. So when a blood vessel is blocked by all these cells, blood cannot flow, and organs everywhere in the body, including from the brain to the skin, cannot get oxygen, which red blood cells bring to the body. So most of the issues you see in sickle cell disease are due to this blockage or vaso-occlusion of blood vessels. So organs can't get oxygen, they can't get good blood supply, and that is what causes most of the symptoms we see in our patients.
Now, do they have to get blood transfusion or iron transfusion in order to help them?
So for some of our patients, if they are having lots of symptoms like pain or infections or strokes, either ones you can see or can't see, getting blood transfusions is helpful. So you can get it when you come into the hospital occasionally, or you can be set up on a chronic blood transfusion therapy where you're getting it every month.
So one of our audience member asked to please also explain the trait.
Absolutely. So with sickle cell trait, it was thought that those people are completely normal. And some people with sickle cell trait are completely fine. However, people with sickle cell trait can have issues. If their body is put under enough stress, they can have any symptom that someone with sickle cell disease has. So for these people with trait, I also encourage them to stay well hydrated and to regulate their body temperature well and just take good care of themselves. Those people with trait can also have issues with the kidney. And they can have issues being at a high altitude as well. So it's important that they get some attention if they do need it.
I'm just saying, I remember I told you at the onset that my student, right, who unfortunately died at 16, John. We used to do the international tour for students. The parent, I don't know if the parent forgot or whatever the case is, but they failed to inform, because had they informed us, he wouldn't have gone on the trip. And he started having we flew to Spain, but we did a connecting flight. So we flew, I don't remember which country we flew to, I think it was Germany. And then we went to Spain. And I'm telling you, we didn't know why this boy was sick. And then he had a problem breathing, he had a problem walking, and he had a high fever. If I remember, my partner he remembered more, and some of the students that were there remembered this young man, beautiful young man, and to see that happening. So when you measure altitude, one of the advice for parents is that the kids should not fly. Like anybody with sickle cell should minimize the amount of flying. Am I correct? Because of the difference in air pressure.
So they can fly, but they shouldn't have any sort of illness. And some patients could even benefit from a blood transfusion before going on a flight, just to dilute out that sickle cell concentration. So they need to make sure before they go on a flight, they really take good care of themselves. They're well hydrated. They don't have any fever or any illness. And, for this young man, it's unfortunate that you all weren't informed that he had sickle cell disease, because unfortunately, some people still see it as something that you shouldn't talk about. I'm losing the word right now, but there's a stigma that comes along with it. So some people are embarrassed to say they have this disease, but the more people know, the more people can help you when things go wrong.
Doc, you aware of any clinical trials, or if any clinical trials or drugs that there?
Can I ask a question before you get to that one? To go back to something she spoke about, do you mind?
No, they don't. No.
Yeah, no, because you mentioned something about the trait and the deformity of the cells, right? And I wanted to go back to that before, because John, that's a very important question, right? Because there are people who are listening right now. So the question is, with the deformity of the cells, right? Is it constant, or something can trigger it to make the cells the form to cause pain or whatever the case is, or does it lay dormant? What triggers it? That kind of thing, so people to look out for if they're sickle cell, or how do people react to that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good question. So the cells can go from that bean bag, not beef patty, that bean bag shape to a sickle shape and then go back. So some of those sickled cells are reversible, but sometimes when they turn to that sickle form, they're irreversible. So the thing that makes that happen is the loss of oxygen to that red blood cell, but that red blood cell has to have that hemoglobin S or sickle hemoglobin. So, one of the things that the medicines do, one medicine makes sure that you have more fetal hemoglobin in a blood cell. So you look like you do when you're from newborn to 6 months old. And those cells are less likely to sickle. So, and then when those cells sickle, you end up having that blockage in the vasculature. And things that make that cell sickle: loss of oxygen, dehydration, cold weather, stress, and things like that.
John, you had a question.
Well, my question, Doc, is you hear about all these clinical trials that are taking place and all these drugs trying to get FDA approval to assist those who do have sickle cell and go through these crises. So my question to you, are you aware of anything like that?
Oh yeah, there are clinical trials out there for people with sickle cell disease. You just have to find them. So a good place is the CDC website. The FDA website has a place where you can look that will direct you to these clinical trials. And we are more than happy to have patients join these trials. And I know when I was attending patients, people were always hesitant, particularly at Hopkins, where we have a history of Henrietta Lacks, and they're hesitant to go into these clinical trials. But this is the way that we get more treatments out there for patients with sickle cell disease.
Would you worked? You work. At Johns Hopkins, a research hospital as well, mm-hmm. and you also work for the FDA. Would they transport people to different locales to work with clinical trials? Would if somebody's really interested in saying they're doing that, or they frown upon saying go to Johns Hopkins or coming down to Washington D.C. to work focus in clinical trials?
So at a place like Hopkins, a major institute, we had clinical trials happening where we were. Mm-hmm. So we weren't necessarily in charge of them, but we had patients involved in them. They were put on a special place in the hospital, and we did the trials there. So a lot of our patients didn't necessarily have to go anywhere. Sometimes you do have to go to a different location.
No, I mean, would they? Let's say somebody has sickle cell in New York and they're interested in the clinical trial at Johns Hopkins. Mm-hmm. Would Johns Hopkins say, you know what, come on down, Donna Whyte, and we'll take care of whatever you need to take care of while you're going through this trial? Would they do that? Do you know of things like that happening, or that's rare?
Yeah, that's always possible. I think people have changed locations, and then we would have to set up to make sure that they were able to be involved in the clinical trial in that city that they were transported to. We would make a way to make that happen. But especially in a place like New York, that trial is probably open someplace in New York City.
Okay. What is the primary, what was that?
Stargirl.
I had another question, but let's go to what the audience is asking. Does having a high level of white blood cell have any link to sickle cell or cancer? Do you know the answer to that? I mean, you did do some oncology.
Yeah, so white blood cells having a high level, usually that's seen in cancer.
Say that again?
Usually having a high level of white blood cells, a very high level, is usually something that we see in cancer.
Okay.
So in sickle cell disease, that's not normally one of the symptoms we see on labs or a laboratory test.
I have a question for you. In regards to the cure, bone marrow as being one of the cure, Can it be someone, a parent, a child? How would I, how would you know who's a good match, and what are the steps for that?
Yeah, good question. So, a bone marrow transplant is right now the only, it's the most accessible cure for sickle cell disease. The best match for a patient with sickle cell disease is a sibling. However, only about 10% of patients actually have a sibling who's a match. You can also get a bone marrow transplant from a parent, and those are called haploidentical transplants. They work not as well as those from siblings. And then, the other thing is that in this bone marrow transplant, the pot that is there's not enough people that match people who have sickle cell disease or who look like people who have sickle cell disease. So if we can get more donors for bone marrow, that'd be great.
Where should they go to actually get tested, or to know if, hey, how to be able to get tested? Because I think that's an area where people are not educated about, hey, you know what, how can I help somebody in regards to that? And how long would it take, if I decide I'm a good match, if the doctor decide, hey, I'm a good match, what is the downtime, what is the recovery time, and what are the steps necessary?
Yeah, so to be tested, it's really just a blood test. So it's just a regular blood draw from the arm. So something like that, they could ask their primary care doctors, or there are definitely organizations online that do sickle cell disease, and that would be a great reference as well. If you can, this is where I will actually promote Google, or really you can just Google those organizations. In terms of actually doing a bone marrow transplant, that's a longer conversation. There's not that much downtime, but you are in the operating room to get bone marrow removed from a hip bone. So there's a bit of downtime. Mm-hmm. No, go ahead, John.
So, Doc, with this talk of sickle cell, and now we're talking about COVID, and they talk about pre-existing conditions. So, is sickle cell? First of all, sickle cell is a pre-existing condition. I know that. But the impact that it has on the autoimmune system, it does have an impact because of it does have an impact on your immune system.
Absolutely.
Even make you even more susceptible to contracting COVID. It could be very detrimental if you don't get it. Even if you got vaccinated, would it still have the same impact?
And that's what I was going to ask too. Throw in there, would you recommend that somebody who has sickle cell to take the vaccine? Actually, as
correct. To put it more succinctly, yes.
Yeah. So, having sickle cell disease is being an immunocompromised state. Okay. So I would have you look at people with sickle cell disease as a child who's getting chemotherapy. It puts you in an immunocompromised state, so your immune system just is not as strong to fight off infections. So we more than advocate for our patients to receive vaccines, and in particular COVID-19 vaccines. Mm-hmm. And patients with sickle cell get more vaccines than the average person, just to make sure that they have antibodies to certain bacteria and viruses that are going around in the community.
That's good to know, Doc. Very good.
What was that? I think we kind of answered that, right,
yeah,
John?
We answered. Yeah, we definitely answered.
You saw the question on the screen. Does sickle cell have any relation to other autoimmune diseases? I guess what Takia is asking, does it lead to others, or is it tied in with others? Am I correct, Takia? I just want to make sure that we are answering it. Well, you could answer both. Does it lead to or tie into other autoimmune diseases?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely patients with sickle cell disease who have other autoimmune diseases, like, say, lupus, for example. It's not necessarily common.
Right.
I'm wondering if that is the question that she has, but usually it doesn't necessarily lead or make you more susceptible to autoimmune diseases.
Somebody's going through a breakdown from sickle cell. They're in pain, they're in a crisis. How long does a crisis normally last?
It depends on the patient. There are people with sickle cell who have pain every day, right? And those are patients who have chronic pain. It's just that that's the way they live life. So we always ask patients, where's your pain on a scale of 0 to 10? And some patients live at a 4 pain scale. So if they can treat their pain at home, they can do that with oral medications, things just like Motrin, Advil. Some people may have
Oxycodone.
Yeah, some people have narcotics or opioids like oxycodone in the home as well.
I don't like when you say, I take oxycodone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the concept of narcotics when you say oxycodone.
Man, you're taking a drug, man.
My doctor reminded me there's no such thing as a drug addict in my condition. All right, don't be narcotics.
So we don't like it either, but it's what we've been doing and it's what works. We're trying to do lots of different things to get a lot of our patients off of narcotics.
Really though, again, you go back to that term again. So
now if a patient has to go to the hospital, then the pain is too bad to deal with at home. So that might be after
the pain is getting worse
for 1 to 2 days at home, and then they come into the hospital and they can be in the hospital for on average a week, if not more. It depends on the individual as to how long these pain crises last.
I, on a personal note, I was actually, when I was younger, actually right after college, I was dating this young lady whose son who had sickle cell. Well, not has, because it's life, right? It doesn't go away.
Unless you cure it with a bone marrow transplant or genetic therapy coming up.
Interesting to know. So bone marrow or genetic therapy can cure it. And he was in John when the pain hit. That young man, at the time, he was probably about 10 or 11 or 12. So he's in his 30s now. I might even be close to 40, but excruciating pain wasn't even the word.
Wow.
And mom didn't really, didn't know what to do. But when he was good, but then it was like a major, it's kind of like he's good for this moment. And then in a twinkling of an eye, he was in some serious pain. Is that normal?
Yes.
I mean, is that his case or is that a normal expectation? I guess that's not the right word. Expectation is not the right word, but is that a normal?
Is it normal? Is it normal for something like that to happen?
Yeah. I mean, it can look different for many people. I think a lot of the patients are good at masking their pain, and so when they can no longer do it, it looks like it's happening in the twinkling of an eye for people observing it. But yes, the pain can be that sudden. It can be that acute. Where it just comes on rapidly. And sometimes there's a trigger and sometimes they can't figure out what the trigger is. But a trigger can be, like I said, it can be cold, it can be dehydration, it could be an infection that they don't yet know they have.
Doc, is there a possibility that if one who works out and utilizes the gym, would that exacerbate the onslaught of sickle cell?
For some people, intense exercise can initiate a pain crisis, but for people who can tolerate exercise, we encourage them to exercise, and that helps keep the body in shape. And sometimes, being healthy, being in shape can keep away the pain crises. So it just kind of depends on your tolerance and what you're doing. I wouldn't go doing, bench presses and, keep up with the other, big guys in the gym, but working out, doing, easy sports, swimming, all good stuff.
You mentioned being hydrated. What would you, as a specialist, at this point, I'm going to call you a specialist because this is something that you're studying. And before I ask you that question, what motivated you actually to study sickle cell, to make that your hematology oncology? What that sickle cell component? What was the motive factor for you?
Yeah, good question. So, I went into all of this because I wanted to help cure cancer. Right. I did bench or basic science research starting at Haverford, did it some more in medical school. And so when I went into fellowship finally and started treating patients with cancer and patients with blood disorders, I was more attracted to the blood disorders for some reason. And then in doing that, I was drawn to the patients with sickle cell disease. I don't know if it was because they looked like me or because they entrusted me more with information so I could help them. But I was like, I like these kids and I want to do something to help them because they definitely need help. And And it's interesting because a lot of the data that comes with sickle cell and knowledge of sickle cell disease comes from Jamaica. And both my parents are from Jamaica as well. And I was like, oh, that's a connection. That it's like it's meant to be. And so I'm drawn to these kids. I'm drawn to helping them and advocating for them in this disease. They don't have enough of that. Sickle cell started getting a lot more attention in the past, maybe 10 years or so. And so people are really focusing on it now. And that's really great to see because it wasn't getting as much attention as it needed before.
I have one question for you. In regards to fatigue, what can one do to help with that? Because that's one of the signs or one of the problems with sickle cells. What should a parent do? What should a child do? What should an adult do who's dealing with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's called sickle cell anemia. And it's that anemia or decrease in red blood cells that are bringing oxygen to everywhere that causes that fatigue, right? So these patients are anemic. And so they need more red blood cells. So sometimes it takes transfusions on a monthly basis to do that. Sometimes, but very rarely, patients are iron deficient as well, but that's not usually the case. And another way that you stop those red cells from breaking down as often as they do can be with medication. Mm-hmm. And those medications are out there and they're continuing to be developed.
So Andre is asking, making a statement, which is I've encountered people who share their story of how exercise, going back to touching on what John was saying, have helped them with sickle cell. They exercise extensively and with, over time. So they're able to be in the hospital less. Still had pain, still had to be in the hospital, but their life, I guess, made it easier. So he's basically concurring with what you're saying about the positive effect of exercising. I want to ask you a question. You went back to you talked about hydration and H2O, right? H2O, the big part of that H2 is the O. Mm-hmm. How much water would you recommend? So the average, what is it, 8 glasses of water a day for the average person? Right. A person with sickle cell, what's that number? What would you recommend?
The same. I wouldn't go any more. When patients come into the hospital in a pain crisis, that's one of the things we do is we hydrate them, but it's gentle hydration. So even less than we would give a regular person through IV. So in terms of drinking water, I wouldn't go with any more than 8 glasses a day. And I don't know that most people need actually 8 glasses a day, but I think that's a fine goal. And they should definitely be trying to stay hydrated. So they're going to the bathroom to make urine at least once every 4 hours or so, not any more than that.
Is there watching your weight? How does weight affect sickle cell?
Yeah, I mean, I think just like exercise, overall, you want your body to be at the healthiest that it can be. So you want good diet, like Dr. Bryant was saying. You want to make sure you're hydrated. You want to work out a little bit. You want to exercise. You don't want to be a couch potato. You want to make sure you're putting good things into your body and around your body. So all of those things are going to be helpful when you have sickle cell disease. You just want to be in the best shape possible. And the reason I like doing pediatrics is because for that, just the basics, the helpful people are the parents, right? As kids get older, they don't pay attention to their parents anymore. And that's when they start getting into unhealthy habits. And as you get older, your sickle cell symptoms are going to get worse. And then because you're taking less care of your body, the symptoms will continue to also get worse.
A lot of times when people are ill, they feel very sorry for themselves, John. And especially if they start reading like these life expectancies so low and blah, 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 and they don't want to. What are some things when you come across that when a parent says, my child is unmotivated, just like give it up? What are some things that you have conversations with them about to help to change that mental, because the mental anguish, because one of the things that we focus on, Joanne, Dr. Bryant, myself, and John, we focus on mental health.
Yeah.
And when somebody's in a situation where they say, I might not live for a long time, they get
depressed,
beyond depressed, right? They become isolated, they become solitary, they become, basically give up,
Right.
and life is futile and full of despair. What are some things that are help that you can offer to those young people who just can't, are young adults?
Yeah, excellent question. First thing is just education. A lot of patients, even though they have sickle cell disease, they don't know very much about it. They don't know the type that they have. They don't know that they can live to 60 or 70. My favorite quote to my patients are, "You might live longer than me," which is absolutely true. The second thing, like you say, with the teenagers, the young adults, the adolescents, most of my patients with sickle cell, they have some level of depression or anxiety. And so as hematologists, we treat that. We will write them medications for antidepressants for their depression, or we have them go and see a therapist or just talk about it, because this disease is chronic and it's going on for most of their lives. And, it's like they're dealing with this plus trying to grow up as well. It is difficult. It's definitely something that can make you depressed. And so we always ask our patients how they are doing emotionally and mentally. And if they're not doing well, we have things in place to help them. So whether it be a therapist, medication, sometimes we get them buddies, like an older person with sickle cell disease that is positive and can help them deal with what they're going through. But I'm going to come back around to education and just understanding the disease and what they can do to help themselves and what they can do to help their hematologist or their doctor help them.
I'm so glad that you're having this conversation, because I want to make sure that people understand, people out there in the audience who are listening, for other people to understand that you can live a normal life.
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to have some setbacks because of this, but you can be the doctor, like you're saying, like you want to be you wanted to help to cure cancer. Your call might be coming back to work with Dr. Whyte on curing sickle cell. Have you heard of a doctor? I don't know if it's a doctor, Dr. Vernon Francois. Have you heard of this person?
Francois, no.
Okay. Well, one of our classmates recommended him as well as a specialist. Maybe somebody you want to look up. Kwame, I don't know if you remember Kwame.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So he recommended him. So somebody to look up for you. I think we're going to try to get him on as well to find out what his research is.
Hey Doc, something else that I've, like you said dealing with blood. I think you said blood diseases. Am I correct?
Blood disorders or diseases.
I know there's another one that multiple myeloma.
Mm-hmm. That's older folks.
Right. It's for older folks. Okay.
Now, do we have support groups for the young people in regards, or the parents who have children with sickle cells, and where can they find it? Like some of the support groups for that.
You're asking me the hard questions, but they do exist. They are. They definitely exist. I know we had parents of patients in our clinic who actually started, these groups just to give the sickle cell a voice. And so there are support groups out there. I just couldn't give you websites or things like that. What I try to do is point my patients in the right direction, because there are places where patients go to vent about their sickle cell disease, and it can get very dark and very negative. And so I want patients to be to access better or more positive sources of information for these groups, but they do exist.
Okay.
Give me 3 or 4 advice that you'll give to a teacher, because you deal with pediatrics. 3 or 4 advice that you give to a teacher when they have to deal with a student. 1, being able to identify. 2, interaction, and 3, solution. Right? To a student who's in the situation of sickle cell.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit before about what things are needed in the classroom, but the first thing is that the parents have to share with the teachers and the school staff that the child actually does have sickle cell disease.
I think that's very important, Doc. That's very important.
Yeah, that's step 1. And then with that, they have to understand that because of this disease, that child's going to miss some school. So there has to be a way for that child to make work up, whether it be taking work with them when they're out, or maybe even extending things into the summertime, which kids don't like, but sometimes it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
In the classroom, like we said before, allow them to drink water and then also use the bathroom. They should be allowed to have a sweater so they can actually, stay warm when it's summer and there's air conditioning on, for example. There are 504 plans, right? Individual educational plans, IEPs, right? And so the students with sickle cell disease should use these so that it is officially noted in the school.
And the teachers need to read them, right?
Right, and use them and exercise them, absolutely. And then, in addition, the child has to be educated again about their disease so they can advocate for themselves. So if they're in gym class and they're getting tired and they're feeling out of breath, they can raise their hand and say, I need a break, and that teacher knows who they are, and it's not a big deal for them to sit down for a little while.
And Joanne needs to go out and advocate for proper water fountain in every school, right? So we're going to put Dr. Bryant on the advocacy and the advocacy list, right, Dr. Bryant?
Well, you know what? The right water fountains. I'm afraid of these water fountains now in COVID. I'm like, bring your own water.
That's so true.
They have these special fountains. They're like $2,000 or $3,000, but they work, right? But they work for getting fresh water. Actually, no seriousness.
The bottle ones.
Not just the bottle. Yeah, the bottle. Remember, they gave out the bottles a couple years ago, but it's not. It's a specific fountain. Like provide them with cups. Like there should be allocation of monies to do all of those the kind of things.
Is it the fountain of youth, or I mean?
No, it's like a filtered water. They but yeah, they shit about water. It's funny. Like for me, when not funny, but interesting, funny, because in my research and my conversation, I look at the jaundice in the eyes, and I looked at it right away. And when I speak that, I would be yelling at the student, Donna, did you have your water today? That's just a conversation between me and Donna, because Donna is aware that I am knowledgeable of what's happening with you and that you actually do need to. So Donna will get mad at me, but then Donna will go, I'm like, go get your water. Where's your water bottle?
Right.
And it's the children. He actually, I had a couple students like that, and he actually truly appreciated that because I showed the interest, showed the interest in his health and in their health, and they understand that. Listen, you're not just getting it from home, but you're getting it from school, and people really do care about you and do all of that.
Hey Donna, just to wrap, just to really put it together and wrap all of this up. One thing I want to know, where can our audience or where can our listeners locate you, find you, so we can, so you can impart with them some more knowledge with respect to your specialty.
Like, do you do conferences? Do you have those conversations? And if somebody's interested, like, do you have books? Have you written papers and stuff that people can get in touch?
Do you come to the hood?
I definitely come to the hood. That's where my peoples are.
represent BX. Boo.
Right. How would somebody find out more information?
Yeah, I mean, doing these radio shows are just the beginning for me. I think I've been pretty quiet so far in terms of being in the public forum. But, individually, I do counsel a few patients, even if they're not mine, on how to advocate for themselves with their own primary care provider or hematologist. But you could always get me on Facebook.
So, offline, you can provide us with that information. Some of those participants some of those villagers who are interested, we can, make that connection.
And I know one of the listeners.
With the BX.
Yeah, I know one of my listeners. One of the things, though, I'm going to tell her right now, one of my listeners, she's going to call me back and she's going to ask me about the clinical trials. I'm telling you up front.
I have a pamphlet for her. I definitely have information that I could send to you for her or send to her directly if she gets in contact with me.
I'm just telling you because of her, it highlighted for us why we, reminded us that that's something that we needed to talk about.
Excellent.
So I want to thank you, right, for taking the time out. I know you're busy. Oh, I have a question for you. You work for the FDA.
Yes.
The vaccine was emergency approved versus fully approved? Is that what it is? Am I getting it?
Yes,
It's an emergency approved vaccine.
Tell us the difference, because I had an argument with somebody about that. Oh, the person's laughing, so you know who it is, right? So, so tell us the difference when it says whatever they said.
Yeah, emergency use authorization. This is not my division, but it just means that it's needed now. So it doesn't have full approval. It still has to come back. We're still looking at it very closely to make sure, look at the side effects, to look at what's happening, the efficacy, how safe it actually is. So it's kind of like, halfway approved, but good enough for right now. And then, fully approved is just, go for it. Let it rock. We're still watching, but not as, we're not being as stringent.
Talking about
Andre wants to know why they're taking so long.
Yes, I was just thinking the same thing.
I think it was just the speed at which it was done, and it was needed, to make sure that we could save lives. And so that's why it was done so quickly. And that's, we like to take time with these things. Slower sometimes is a little bit better in terms of looking at safety and efficacy in vaccines and drugs.
I got a crazy question. Have you advised a patient or person not to take the vaccine outside? Like, you know what? You shouldn't take it.
I think she can say that.
Never.
Right.
I can't think of a good reason why.
Outside of religious reasons.
Outside of
Can you think of some reason, a specific reason why somebody should not take the vaccine?
If they've had an allergic reaction to other vaccines, like
Anesthesia or
died.
Like what?
Like anaphylaxis, where they've almost died. That would be a reason not to take the vaccine. Other than that, I can't think of one.
So basically, just thinking that you have a medical condition, this will cause you not to take the vaccine is just not good enough, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying
you have to have a real reason. Right?
Allergic reaction, not other diseases, or if they have some other disease, I would probably tell them definitely take it. But if they have a specific reaction to vaccines or what is in the vaccine that could possibly harm them, that's the only reason why I would say not to take it.
And that's just interesting, because I would like to know how many people who says I'm allergic to the vaccine actually know what is in the vaccine. That's just most of them just say, "Oh, I'm allergic because." I'm throwing shades. Thank you so much, Dr. Whyte Stewart, for joining us. This has been a beautiful talk around an issue that does affect us, especially within the Caribbean diaspora. Afro-Americans, African American. I hate that word, African American. Around blacks.
I ain't black.
Right. Well, whatever. I'm not African American. I'm American or not. So, and I think this is a real issue, and I'm glad that you highlighted, because a lot of times people, whenever something is wrong, Joanne, they don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to ask questions. So
Hey, Doc, BX.
Yeah. All right, Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Right. By the way, where in Jamaica?
Brooklyn.
I'm not even listening to John. Where in Jamaica your family's from?
My parents are from St. Catherine.
But do you know a place in St. Catherine, Donna? Really?
Oh, like Point Hill, Wandabolas. You mean like I got to get into the specifics?
You got to get into it. Like people want to know. Like
yeah, Point Hill, Garden Hill, Wandabolas, all of that. Kingston.
Okay, well, all right, no problem. That's cool. So, God bless. You guys have any other parting questions?
No, just looking forward to passing the information on, and you helping out our villagers, and hopefully looking forward to just us just one day possibly just finding a cure if possible.
Yeah. Dr. Whyte will work on that. And
Doctor,
let us know when your conference, whatever it is that you're doing, so that we could invite people in schools to come out.
We do health fairs. I contribute to health fairs, so I'll definitely let you know about that as well. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure's all ours.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Brian, do you have any parting questions or no?
No, just thank you. Thank you, and get tested, right? Everyone should get tested to see if they're a donor. So thank you.
For the sickle cell, right. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Excellent. I'm sorry. I do have to ask a question. I just remembered. You said something I wanted to just ask. Why is it that you say the siblings about for the bone marrow as opposed to the parents?
Yeah, because the siblings have both of the parents' genes, just like the child affected with sickle cell disease, right?
Gotcha.
The parent only has half of what the child has,
Mm.
whereas the siblings.
Does it matter if the person is a carrier or are pure?
We prefer that they not be a carrier.
But I'm saying, does it matter?
It matters, yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you, and God bless.
God bless, Doc.
Thank
God bless
you.
you.
All right. So that, to me, a lot of people do suffer from sickle cell and they're afraid to talk about it. So it's kind of exciting to hear Dr. Whyte coming on and having that conversation with people. Hey Doc, how you doing?
Great. And you?
Not bad. How was work today?
Great.
Why do you say it like that? I'm not going to say something after that. You look like you're waiting for me to say something else. I wasn't going to say anything else other than, I know you're working hard all summer. You put in mad hours. You know what I want to ask you something?
Go ahead.
Summer size, right? So is it summarizing? What is it called?
Summarizing. Mm-hmm.
Summarizing. How would a parent know which local school has summarized? I was actually talking to somebody today.
They were supposed to register online. I think it's closed right now for them to find out, but there is a listing of different summarizing locations. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's all right. So I'm in District 22, so I'm gonna find out.
Yeah, you could just go and type it in and you'll see a list of some of the schools. But one interesting thing is if it's not housed in a school, then it's housed outside in some of the community organization.
So and we could find that out how.
They're trying to register now.
Yeah. I
think it might be too late. It might be closed for that because it's on. Well,
as
I don't. Let me not say.
powerful as you are, you can't make a call.
No, you got that. You got that.
Oh Lord, mercy.
You got that.
Help me.
I bow gracefully.
I just John, there's something very sad happened. Well, and part of the reason why I remember this because something happened on my block today.
What happened on your
I've
block?
never seen this ever in my life, and it's tragic, right? It's a tragic incident.
Oh boy.
And then I had somebody say something that I thought was kind of ridiculous.
What
right?
did you see?
2 police cars collided. I didn't see it, but I came at the end of it. So they were going to a call, and one was going this way, one was going that way, and I guess to try to make a turn head on. Right,
Yeah.
I ran into a building, the laundromat. So I want to make sure that I send out right away, immediately send out my prayers to the officer. Both young men, like
police officers.
Yeah, this is police officer. 2 police cars.
2 patrol cars.
Yeah, one Ford Explorer and one of the Fusion.
What precinct? 6-3.
6-3. Yeah. Yeah. So it's make sure the prayer. And then somebody came out and said something. So like.
We don't want to hear. We don't want to hear.
I'm gonna say.
I can't hear you, Doc. What's Doc saying?
That we don't want to hear. But I'm gonna say, I just thought it was just the person was like they were like, you know how they have to do the caution tape to show the police line, right? To show the police line, right? John keeps having a problem with his headset. Yeah. Oh no, it's the headset. It just keeps popping out like.
No, it's you. You took my headset out.
It ain't me, man. All right, try again. Let's try this one. How we doing? You can hear?
No, yeah. Can you? I can't hear.
Right, and the guy was like, whatever with the cop. The cop has been to my house 7 times in a week. Like in my head, I'm saying out loud, why would a cop need to go to your house 7 times in a week?
I don't know.
Right? Yeah, he's not liking the cop for that. I was like, to me, like logically, if a cop is going to your house 7 times in 1 week, somebody's calling or something is happening. Because I don't think I've ever had a house where the cops, without nothing going on, cut them out 7 times in 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So to wrap up some of the things that we were talking about earlier, the Olympics is happening, right? The track and field is coming up, which is Jamaica's big event, and we were talking about what's the gymnast who who dropped out. And a lot of people saying how the talk on the street about how it was because of that she was being selfish because she dropped out.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about that they don't necessarily understand the pressures, but it's not even just that. I mean, like, she felt like she was getting cheated. She was getting squeezed in a lot of those gymnasts. And I think a couple others felt the same way. But I don't know. We were trying to do a vote tally as of 2 days ago. Do we have a vote tally yet? Can you look that up? The United States was second in medals, and France was first in the medals. But I know that when track and field come out, the United States did well in the beach volleyball. I know that, and they're doing really well they're doing really well in the swimming, I think it was, and the women's basketball team 3-on-3 won the gold.
Yeah.
With the United States. So that was nice. What is that you showing?
You just brought up a point, Roderick, in regards to people were getting on her case, but they have to understand that is a different type of pressure. You're going to a place that is having breakout every other day. They had a high number of COVID cases yesterday and today. Then to top it off, her family's not there. This was the first time many of them don't have their families surrounding around them. So feeling alone is one pressure too. Not having the actual support that you typically have is another thing. Trying to stay safe. So it's kind of hard to actually focus.
Yeah, I was watching like a lot of people who they had to use like what's the like a Zoom link or Meet link where they cheer for. And to me, the stadiums are empty. Actually,
it is.
I was supposed to be in Japan, right? I was supposed to be in Japan at the Olympics. As I've mentioned many times on the show, that my wife is an avid track person and she wants to go and see track. Mm-hmm. And then they canceled. Mm-hmm. And the Japan doesn't even want to give us back our hotel money when they canceled. Like,
really?
Yeah, they don't want to give it back. And so I hear what you're saying though, Joanne, about you don't have that audience support, the fan base, right?
Your family.
And when you look at these stadiums, they're empty. Whereas there are people, all around the world who want to go.
To me, there's a double-edged sword with that because, honestly, I like it when sometimes the audience and everything, they can really distract you and that much more added pressure. But it goes to the mental health aspect of our athletes,
right?
And all they have to endure to become an elite athlete.
Right.
It's just like if you want to become a specialist in any field that you have, there's a certain amount of pressure that comes with it, and to perform at that level. And that's why it's important that I'm not going to say.
Yeah, I have a question for you, John. I don't know if you know the answer. Why do they call it the Russian? I'm not sure. Russian Olympic Committee as opposed to Russian. Do you have any idea?
No, I have no idea.
Okay. All right. Let me see. We can't really see this too.
The United States is in third place with the medal.
No, I think in terms of gold, they're in third place, but not total medal.
Total medal, they're in third place.
No, not total medal. Total medal, they're 38. China's 31.
Oh, okay.
So I definitely say United States was in first place. I don't understand why we can't read this on Montreal. But China's they have 15 goals, 7 whatever. That's irrelevant. United States have 14 goals. I don't see our countries there. I don't see Haiti, Jamaica, but the track and field didn't happen yet. So, what's going on with that? Let me go back here a little bit. Simone Biles withdrew from the women's. We talked about that a little bit. Sha'Carri Richards will not be running, right? But I don't know how it's true. I just heard last night, but I didn't see the actual writing. So if anybody out there knows about that she might be running in the relay, but she's not running in individual events. So they spoke about that. So We're aware of that.
We
So
just want them to be safe. To be honest with you, we just want them to be safe when they come back, for them to be in one piece, because you're competing, you're having all this extra pressure to perform, to represent the United States, but also not to get sick. So, a lot.
yeah. So so moving on to a very quick subject matter. Let me see. I missed it here. Um, where are we? We have a couple weeks ago. Thank you to Congresswoman Beck Clark for her conversation with us about Jovenel Moise, and he was getting buried last week, and there was a shooting, not a shooting, but a gunfire. We didn't hear about if anybody did get shot, and I was wondering, you know, we didn't hear much, but they got the Americans out of there. But
Hmm.
it's just all of this just seems so weird, right? So weird that at his funeral, they still what is it? They weren't satisfied with the fact that he
Let
was
them gunshots.
let them, you know, was it a because when you read all of these things, it wasn't explained. Was it their people? Was it what was going on with the shooting? And to find out exactly what was causing some of the what was going on in terms of animosity. The prime minister stepped down. Another one is stepping in place. Did you hear anything, Joanne, about any elections?
They're trying to push for elections. So that's the interesting thing. I think September or something. Don't quote me in
We
regards
won't
to
quote
that.
you. We won't quote you.
But they are trying to do elections, and that was the big thing that I guess Moise was trying to set up. The gentleman, the new prime minister, was being put in place so that he can take care of the election aspect. So the one that stepped down, the one that was supposed to be sworn in the day after or the day he got murdered, was is who's in power now.
Right. So can you explain
No,
for our audience?
no,
How do you know you didn't know my question? What's my question?
no. To explain the whole election thing, no. I'm not doing
Hey,
That
Doc,
was
you
that
know
was
what?
that wasn't even my question.
I
I
don't
just
even want. I don't even want to, I-
it.
to even get beyond the whole election and what's going on in Haiti. What is United States responsibility to assist countries such as Haiti and other countries to to to
To help
to,
set up.
not help set up, but to come in and to support a structure that is necessary
That's
to
not in place. The
no,
parliament's not in
but
place.
so I have an issue.
what you said,
Right?
what you said, I didn't hear what you said, Doc. What did you say?
The parliament, their whole you know how we have a whole government system
Right,
that's not in place.
right.
Um, I don't know if it's mainly the United States that
But
Haitian
not
people,
only, but other countries. I mean, the
Well, the
responsibility.
UN, right?
Caribbean, the
Well, UN,
Right.
Caribbean, as a whole should come together to help with that. But what can I say?
So
I don't know.
it's with the United States, right? It's damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Right.
Because if when the United States say, okay, we're going to help to put this help to stabilize, put about the United States is interfering. If the United States doesn't interfere, then they say, why isn't the United States helping to stabilize the country?
right.
So, the United States placed this person in power.
Hmm.
And if they don't, you ask, why is the United States helping to establish the government?
We're not saying that the United States should help establish the government. What I'm saying is the United States should be there to support the government is
Well, what would
endeavors.
you want? What is it that you want them to do? Bring the military in?
Not even bring the military in, but also bring in minds, bring in intellectual minds to help from everything from civil, from structural infrastructure to also civil infrastructure, people infrastructure. to help them to support that. It's that whole infrastructure of Haiti, which really needs to support the experts to assist them to get to a level that you will not see the level of poverty that does exist not only in Haiti but in some of these other countries throughout the Caribbean.
I think it's much deeper than that.
So how deep we got to go, Doc? How deep? How deep, Doc?
Listen, it
Oh, she said, "Listen now."
ties. We spoke about this 2 weeks ago, where it ties back to, when you get your independence, and then having to pay back getting your freedom, then having to set up, um, always feeling as though you have to pay back something. So that's the sad thing about it. You get freedom, you fight to become the first independent country, but you also have to pay back. Like, hey, I'm a free slave, but I still have to pay my master and back for becoming free. So that slave mentality is still there, unfortunately. It's harsh to say.
So one of my questions though is 1804 is the level of independence.
Hmm.
Why such a long struggle? In your opinion, I mean, you're not the know-it-all on Haitian.
Not at all. Not even close.
But your opinion, you know, your opinion on what's happening.
Like
Why?
I just mentioned to you, you're fighting for independence. You finally get
But they fought and they got it.
yeah. Then you get independence, but you still have to pay back, which you're still.
But my point is, it's 220 years
But
almost, right?
you have
And that separation is still the poverty, the
leadership,
corruption.
dictatorship,
Yeah,
corruption, all of that
and
is tied together.
but it's constant though, Joanne.
But
Right?
look, there's also embargoes that was put in place. So when certain things are not going right, then you shut down any way for them to make money and to trade with other places. Then you put a system of poverty in place.
Who's they?
For example, I remember years ago, Disney used to actually make things in Haiti, trading sugar and rice and things like that. Certain ways that Haiti was able to make money and trade with other places was blocked when they had a whole breakdown with the system, with dictatorship and the transfer of power and this and that, and more crime started taking over. It goes a little deeper than that. And then every time you have a new leadership in place to try to get the structure back, so it's like I said, it's deeper. It's a slave mentality. Even though you're free, you're not really free.
You're free. You're
You're free from physical bondage, but you're not free from mental bondage.
slavery.
Mental
Bob
slavery.
Marley?
Mental slavery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Bob Marley? Right. That's his song.
Bob Marley.
Yeah, Bob Marley.
Oh, Haiti only finished paying back France in 1947.
But Mariella, I hear that point, right?
Mhm.
But think about what you're saying. 1947 is 73 years ago.
But you also had a dictator. You had money
You had
being.
multiple dictators.
Hmm. And then
And
you
then
had.
there are what, 8 families that basically runs the government. I mean,
And there's a lot of international involvement in Haiti. People would never think there's a lot of Chinese there. There's a lot of
a
different
lot of
other
Chinese
countries.
everywhere. It happened in
Yeah.
Jamaica too.
There's a lot of other countries involved in Haiti, so you have that tied to it too. So when you have so many hands dipping all over the place, you get what you get.
So Andre brought in a good point. Jamaica is looking at the Queen of England to say for reparation, and they're asking for a few $1 billion.
This
What
was
is this going to go? Is this going to go across the border?
You know what? Why should I pay
Who's I?
me
this
for
was the downfall of the banking.
for the sins?
You're
Others.
talking about what they're
Why? When are we gonna move on? Why I gotta pay?
You know what? I'm going to answer that. I'm not even going to let Joanne answer that. I'm going to answer this. And Joanne, say whatever you want to say after what I said. Because there has been a lifetime negative effect of what has happened. Lifetime. So even though some of us are able to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and get the scraps, the reality of the situation is, right? And it also adds on to what Mariella is saying. This caused the downfall of the banking system.
Right.
You don't have access to a right mortgage. You don't have access to a quality neighborhood, a quality school. So yes, there's that 80-20% where people might step out and do well for themselves. But when you look at the billionaires list, you have Michael Jordan, Robert Smith, Ben Johnson, the one of BET, Tyler Perry. I mean, I can begin to name them. But when you look at the other side of the coin, the other people are represented at such a higher level. So there is some institutional poverty that is happening because of what has happened over the years. Right?
If that's the case, then how do you explain the success of a Robert Smith?
Because remember, there's always the 80-20.
Tyler Perry.
No, but you always remember there's always the 80-20.
Or Sean Carter.
But John, the moment that you can name, the moment I always tell my sons this, and I'm gonna tell you the same thing.
And LeBron James, now.
Right? Now, he's not a billionaire yet, right?
Yes.
But or even if he is, right? If you can sit and name people, pull people out and name them, it's an exception, not the norm.
You know what? Let me jump into this. You know what? We fail to realize, fail to understand that the essence of political power that we have a community have, and if we just exercise that political power, we can turn that 80-20. We can make a 180-degree change. If we exercise our political power the way it needs to be exercised. We have understand that we are responsible for the election of major people to major offices that make the decisions that sit at the table that impact our lives.
That's true.
See, you made a great point. There are many people involved in regards to that. But when
that's my profanity.
But when it's a dictatorship, it's a different world.
You know, it's
voice. You have a voice here, but certain countries you don't have a voice.
Well, fine.
Wait, John, hold on. I spoke to somebody, a Haitian person, who appreciated the dictatorship. They said the dictatorship provided stability in Haiti.
Because after that, everything fell out of place or whatever. But remember, there's a fear tactic. People could say the same thing about Castro. People could say the same thing about Cuba. You understand? So it's.
But Doc, there's a structure. You know what? What's very interesting is there's a structure, and my father always said, America has too much freedom.
Understand, they need to appreciate the freedom that they have, because in other countries, if you speak up, guess what happened? You get murdered. So if you have the opportunity to vote, if you have the opportunity to have a voice, you really need to take a stand.
But how can what I don't, you know what? So Mariella, her question to us is her statement, not a question. Thank you very much for correcting me, Andre. They still haven't made any dent in the American economy because there are 1% on control who control. There's 1% on control who don't want black people to rise. You know what? I disagree with that. Black people have arisen. Our problem is is that we don't exercise the power that we have.
Because
you know what's mind-boggling to me is when I look at countries such as Haiti, when I look at other countries in the Caribbean, Guyana, you know what their level of participation is when it comes to exercising their right to vote? It is almost 90%. We can barely break 30, 40%. I see you sucking your teeth, Doc. We may not agree. We're going to get in the fight. Let's just get in the fight. This ain't a marijuana fight now. This is a political fight.
It's not the same in regards to when you say
Why
that
not?
Haiti.
Why not, Doc?
In regards to Haiti having 90% of the people voting, no, I would disagree completely.
But you're saying.
But what I'm saying, Doc, is that measure of participation that exists over there. But why, when they come to America, there is not that level of participation? Because if there's that level of
participation, you know, John, it's not even just the participation. I think they fall into the lack of unity of participation. That's also important because a lot of people do vote, but they lack the unity, which is one of the things that you speak about a lot of times. It's like a crab in a barrel. I'm voting just for me, or I'm not voting at all.
Because if we are not at the table, Doc, we are not going to.
We're screwed.
We're not going to. There's a big difference. There's a big difference of having a person of color at the table when decisions are being made, because what you bring the experiences of a whole group of individual minority people to certain things that you have to educate other people about. So it's so important to have these roundtable discussions, to talk about our similarities and our differences, but to really narrow it down to we all are similar. We want the same thing. We just want opportunity.
Right.
Stop putting barriers in the way for us to exercise our opportunity. And we do not exercise that opportunity. This is why do you think there is such a major concentration in those states when it comes to voter rights? Why do you think they're doing that?
Because they fight against voter rights.
They understand the significance of people being in positions of power to make changes that would have never happened unless they sat there in power.
And I think that, you know, John, going in some fairness to Mariello's statement about that 1%, right? It goes that 1% record. I made a statement, I think, a couple of weeks ago on the show, where a black man was applying for a job, and he got the job, and the white man was upset. He said, "You took my job." He goes, "I didn't take your job. I applied for the same position." Now, going back, I'm just saying, going back to take away your right to vote.
A recent example, you see Michelle Nichols, and you see the other sister, the commentator. What was her name? Her brother played football. Taylor. Taylor. And they were thinking, you know, she was coming up for contract negotiations, and they were elevating her to a position that would require more notoriety. And Nichols made a comment to LeBron James' agent, says, "Yes, I understand that ESPN has an issue with respect to diversity and promoting people, but it shouldn't be. I shouldn't have to lose my opportunity because they need to show that they promote diversity." And this is the mindset. This is a white woman saying to a black woman that, of course, you need to step up, but you don't need to step on me to step up. But they've been stepping on us to step forward all the time. But now they know how we feel. The bottom line is we don't want you to give us nothing. What we just want is a level playing field where we're all treated. Don't look at the color of our skin. Just look at the content of our character
but
and
John,
make a decision.
I think it goes back to equity. I don't believe in equality. I believe in equity. And so if for years I wasn't able to get into the police department, get a viable job to send my kid to school. If for years I couldn't get into a good college.
I didn't know you would go to the police department.
Right? Oh, yeah, that's a different conversation, right? For years, my parents couldn't get a mortgage, live in a good neighborhood, or whatever the case is. You know, you put me some kind of, you know, whatever. or rent stabilized apartment. Like this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. While my neighbor, because as we discussed before, and then Robert Carnegie, when he was on, talked about the fact that home ownership is a pathway to wealth, right?
Right.
If for years you denied me of this opportunity, you now have to create the opportunities for me to advance. And maybe it might be on your back because you rode on my back for decades and for eons. I want to do something before I forget, and I don't want to forget Mr. Pierre. Happy
And
birthday.
Sade. And Sade. What
Right.
you gonna say, Mr. Pierre, and not
Bon
say
anniversaire, Monsieur
Sade?
Pierre. Ça passe, mes amis. Tu vas bien? Oh, I hope your daughter took you out and made sure you had a good time on your birthday. So happy birthday. Joanne's dad's birthday was
Happy birthday to Joanne's dad and her daughter.
Happy birthday to my cousin High Grade
and God bless y'all. And I know Doc did the right thing, took them out, treated them like the king and queens they are.
Yes, we did. We did. We did.
You
Thank
got
you.
any you got any cake for us? You bring any cake?
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't do cake. We didn't do cake.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
My parents don't eat cake.
Well, we eat cake.
Yeah. We eat cake.
So they had brownie, and they had a
We eat
So
brownies.
we eat brownie. We eat
Especially
brownie.
if it's laced.
With ganja weed.
I just want
on your
the audience to see
own.
her face. I just want the audience to see her face of bring up marijuana. Every time you bring it up, look at her face.
You're on your own.
Oh,
So
no,
you expect me to give,
Ariella, you know what? That comment was
you
perfect right
expected
now.
me to give marijuana lace things to my dad and my
We
daughter?
never said that. You said
Oh my
your
gosh.
parents don't eat
What?
cake. So we're just saying for
You
us,
heard that?
laced. You make sure you get it properly.
I ain't say that now.
Right? Nobody
didn't
would
say that.
dare
I
say
didn't
Mr.
say-
Pierre.
I didn't say that.
Mr. Pierre, who's put down some great prayers for me to give him. No, he's good.
I didn't say that now.
By the way, how's your uncle? How's he doing? Is he here in New York?
Who are you talking about?
Your uncle. I forgot your
uncle?
uncle's name, but remember he came
My
to my house.
uncle, yeah, he's in New York. He's in New York.
Tell him I said keep sending those prayers up. All right, those prayers are phenomenal. So you got to keep that up. All right.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to forget. I did say happy birthday to High Grade Nicole. A couple others had birthday this week. Before I forget, what is this?
You know, next
What is
month.
this?
You know what? Hey, next month is August.
Next,
You know that?
next week is over. Next month.
Next week, yeah, next week is August.
Actually, yeah. Sunday.
Yeah, school starting in a couple of weeks.
Okay, that's good.
Hey, do you think we have a Labor Day parade this year?
Yes, we are
Well,
actually.
wait. They're
Yeah.
also having the. What is your thought about that big concert that De Blasio is about to have? You know, the open.
I'd say you need to be vaccinated.
Yes.
Puff, pass.
What
Right.
does that have to do with the concert and now
Vaccine.
the new Delta virus? You know,
Woodstock
hey,
all over again.
We don't want you guys who are non-vaccinated and have no real reason not to take the vaccine to come and mess up with us who have taken the vaccine and want to stay afloat and safe.
no, okay.
Yo, she's like, there's no.
Doc, I got 2 tickets for you
I got 2 tickets, but once you take the vaccine,
2 tickets for what?
for the concerts.
I won't be in town. I'm gonna be away, so you guys
Where you
can
going?
enjoy that.
where you going? You didn't tell us
I'm
you're
gonna
going.
be on a nice, wonderful beach.
Oh, okay. By yourself?
You mean Coney Island Beach?
No.
No, Bergen Beach.
And no,
Kumbaya. Fine.
not.
All right. So, what else? They are September. What is it now? Full. You missed the part when we were talking about going back to school. You guys have to be vaccinated. Actually, like I said to you, like he said, pushing.
Or tested every week.
Yes.
Hmm.
And I can't see myself getting something pushed in my nose every week. That's a pain.
I did it last week. I did it this week. I'm good.
Yeah, we know. We're, and that's fine. I don't know, John. It's got to be annoying.
you know what? If you don't want to get, I mean, that's
That's what
what
you
it
gotta
is.
go through.
That's what we got to go through. Let's move forward. Let's do what we have to
You
do.
know?
We have to protect other people,
Yeah,
especially our children.
I I don't know if on a different subject. I'm very upset about the level of gun violence though that's happening and the crime that happening here in New York, in New York State, New York City primarily. John, and I go back. I had this conversation before. I think I really am going to advocate for our Second Amendment. You know, our rights to bear arms.
I see no problem with that.
Yeah, you got to follow.
But we can't be vigilantes either.
No, but I'm saying you got to
Because
follow.
you can't give Doc no gun. Doc shoot everybody
Yeah,
up.
especially when you have a spliff in your hand, right? No, Doc. Yo, come on, Doc. She's like,
I already told you, watch it, and I'm a supporter of protecting yourself 100%.
what do you mean by watch it? Watch what? What are we watching?
Watch your mouth.
Watch your mouth.
Watch your mouth.
You threatened me with the second
Oh,
amendment?
I would never.
It just sound like a threat, right, John? It sound like a threat. Watch your mouth. Because I know when my parents said to watch my mouth, we'll slap us coming, right?
They just put you on notice. That's all.
Exactly. So we want to know what watch your mouth means, right? So I'm actually an advocate of the Second Amendment, right? I feel that, it's kind of like the same thing that I feel about the stupid cameras, right? The speed cameras, right? I feel like the government put things in place to chastise people. The speed camera does nothing but other than tickets.
That's true.
That's all it does. And so it's a stream of revenue for the city of New York.
Right.
Right. I have two speed camera. Right. I have two speed cameras around the corner from my house. Why? Well,
because you speed too much, and that's why they put the cameras there.
So here's my
know
question.
you in the area.
Here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
If you're really that concerned about speeding, why don't you put up speed bumps?
Well, you know what, Roger?
No, answer the question.
I
If you're really concerned about about speeding, put up a speed bump.
You have a problem with the speed cameras. I don't, because you know what? People are flying down.
I agree. I know. I remember. I just said.
I understand
speed bumps because speed bumps literally have the same effect.
The city needs money. Remember, they.
You know what?
That's what I'm saying. It's all about money.
That's the topic for next week's show.
Right.
So
is it time to go already?
Time to go.
Wow. Mariella. What's it? Yeah. I saw that someone is in trouble. Let me see. What was your last comment? I don't want to miss your.
No revenue in speed bumps. There you go.
Yeah.
No revenue. So they got to make up for last year.
So
we got to wrap it up. We got to wrap it up, Rogers. Bring it home.
All right. So I'm told to shut up. I got you. And I was put on warning by Joanne. I see it. I heard you watch your mouth. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us right here on the Village Talk Show. I want to thank Dr. Donna Whyte Stewart for joining us today to talk about sickle cell and the effects hematology and oncology for young people. That's a plague in our community. This has been the Village Talk Show, where we are dedicated to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life, helping each one of us in realizing our dreams at any age, starting from today. Remember, success is not just spoken, it is done. What are you doing to be successful? We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.